Okay, so here's the top 3 mistakes that I see brokerage owners make. And I see this a lot mostly with newer brokerage owners, but then I see people who've been in the business a long time and I see them making the same mistakes too. So I can't really say that. Okay, so before I even start on like 1, 2, 3, let's just step back for a second and zoom out and look at the big picture. So you got to understand as you're growing a team, no matter what size it's going to be, if you're going to have 2 agents or 200, what you've got to think about is this is a value exchange. So you have to think about, why would an agent join you in the first place? So they're going to give up a portion of their commission, and in exchange for that, you're going to give them what? What are you going to give them? Are you going to give them leads? Are you going to give them a lot of support? Are you going to give them an office? Are you going to give them great training? What is it that you're going to give that agent? And the more you give, the more you can get. So you can change your split to whatever it is that makes a fair value exchange, so they feel like they are happy with what you're giving them and what they're giving up. And then you also need to be profitable so that you have long-term sustainability. So you've got to think about that too. So that's kind of the big picture. A lot of people I talk to are like, oh, I just want to grow. I need to recruit. I can't figure out how. Well, it's because they haven't stopped and stepped back and looked at that first. And then when I say that, they're kind of like, oh, and then it's like, okay, well, how do I do that? And what are those pieces? So, but that's kind of the big picture of what we've got. Okay, so the number 1 mistake I see people make is they hire the wrong agents. So whether that's, you're bringing on part-time agents and you don't have a whole support system around that, you could make that a strategy. You could hire part-time agents, but you're going to need to have showing assistants. You're going to have other assistants. You're going to need a lot of support around those people. And you could do that. I mean, that wouldn't be my first pick, but that is definitely a model you could go with. But you have to think through the details of how you would support that. And if you're not structured and set up to do that, then you shouldn't be hiring agents like that. When you hire part-time agents and they've got another job or a lot of other obligations, what ends up happening is they're always bugging you on your off time. So you're ready to train them, maybe, in the middle of the afternoon is the best time for you, but they can't meet with you till 8 o'clock at night. And they need help, of course. And you're like, I'm just getting ready to go to bed or whatever it is. So it's always like so inconvenient that it's just not worth it. Now, the other thing that you can do wrong with hiring agents is you can get people who just aren't like fitting in with your culture and really jiving with what you're trying to create. So if you're trying to create a brokerage that has, say the best 5-star rating and gives the best client service, but you hire an agent that has a bad attitude, they don't get back to people, they don't communicate, that's not moving in the same direction of what you're trying to create. So again, it starts back with you thinking through what it is you're trying to create, and then you need to hire people in line with what you're trying to do. It becomes a filter where every time you're having an interview or a conversation with an agent, you're thinking, okay, are they fitting in with, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do this. And when they start checking the boxes, you might have a good fit. But until you have that, you're just ready to hire anyone. And I know, because when I had my first brokerage, the first agents I hired, oh my gosh, it was a train wreck. I'm telling you, I made every mistake you could. And I was just so excited an agent would even think about joining me. And then you get desperate to get them, right? You're just like, oh, I need like a body count. Like I need to hire some agents. Hiring the wrong ones is one of the worst mistakes you can make. So that's my number 1 thing that I see a lot of brokerages do. Number 2 is not focusing on your culture. And so it kind of goes along the same lines. If you don't know what you're creating, what is your culture? What are your values? What are you creating? Your agents, first of all, won't fall in line to try to move towards that, but you'll be hiring people that are all over the place. And you can even have a small group of agents and have a really great culture where everyone's getting along great and you're doing lots of things. And even just bringing in one more person can tip everything in a bad direction, and it can ruin your culture. I've done it. I've wrecked my culture and had to fix it. So that can happen. And so you really have to be careful to figure out what you want. And then you've got to promote your culture by encouraging your agents and praising them when they do things that are moving in the direction you want to go and creating what you want. And you've got to defend your culture when maybe you make a bad hire and you need to just fire that person. I've had conversations with brokerage owners. They had an agent leave and, she called me, she was all upset. And then she finds out from all of her agents that they thought this person was terrible, bad ego. They're not generous, just not trustworthy, not creating like a good thing for the clients and all this stuff. And she's like, I had no idea that was going on. Okay, well then you're not zoned in on what your culture is. And so that's the first thing you've got to get right, is knowing what your culture is and then being willing to promote it and defend it. And the number 3 thing is getting your splits wrong. This is so common. I talk to brokerage owners and like, my splits are this, my splits are this, my splits are this. And I'm like, you're not going to make any money. But they get so desperate to bring on an agent that they don't, you've got to start with knowing what your value is. Now, if you're going to have 150 or more agents and that's your plan, you want to have this big brokerage, you put your splits at whatever. I mean, charge people $5 for a transaction, whatever is going to make you profitable, and bring in lots of agents. Because at that point, when you're having lots of agents, you're focused more on quantity, not so much on quality. So even if you have agents that only do 1 deal a year or something like that, it's not a big deal. Great, you make something off the 1 deal a year, you're probably charging them a monthly fee, and that's really how you're getting your stability for your office. So if that's what you're going to do, great. Most of you want to have a brokerage that's 150 agents or less. You're probably south of 100 even. And so with that, it becomes more important that you maximize what you get from every agent. So I always tell people, don't ever put an agent above an 80-20 split. I mean, people ask me, they just want a real number. And I'm like, don't ever put an agent above an 80-20 split. It's not even worth your time to have an agent that's above that level. Unless, like I said, you're planning to grow and have a whole bunch and you're going to be more like 100% brokerage, which then you're just going to, you got to be careful not to compete to the bottom with everyone else out there trying to do that too. So again, it comes down to that value exchange. What are you giving in exchange for what they're giving you? And so if you can get that dialed into a sweet spot, you'll have agents join you, you'll have them stay with you, they'll be happy, you'll be profitable, and it's all going to make sense. So you got to be real careful about not setting your splits too high. And especially if you're starting your brokerage, maybe now you have an opportunity, you haven't messed up already and have a bunch of agents and you're thinking, oh boy, how am I going to fix this? So those are the 3 things that I see most often. There's so many things to do wrong. I know I've made all the mistakes there are, and I made an 18-hour course because there were so many things to talk about to help brokerage owners. So I know there's lots of stuff. There's recruiting and interviewing and leads and, so many things to talk about. But these are the 3 mistakes that I see most commonly that I think really impact, kind of where you're trying to go and can hinder your growth. So I hope that's been helpful. If you like the content we're putting out on our channel, please like our channel, subscribe, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next video.